So I don't know if you've been watching the news this week, but last Saturday, not yesterday, but a week from yesterday, an NFL player put his foot in his mouth in the biggest way possible by promoting patriarchy, the kind of patriarchy that you see in these non denominational taco type churches, high demand religious organizations, and evangelicalism. And I watched a quiverful, I don't want to say adherent, but a cultural enforcer lose her mind in the worst way, and it gave me all the feels. My old cold shriveled heart, it gave me all the feels. So we have to talk about that today. I'm Suzanne Tickmeyer. I used to write for a place called Pathos, column called No Longer Quivering. It had to do with the quiverful evangelical movement and just non-denominational evangelicalism in general. And I mean, right on the verge of publishing my book with Strange Fire. If you want to know more about my book, you can look at my website with strangefire.com, where I'm going to put a chapter up for you to read and make your decision as to whether this might be something you want to read in the future. But it's all about my years getting into and then leaving evangelicalism and then coming here to Costa Rica and what that was all about and how my old evangelical crew still tried to reach out to me in some very weird ways. The same people that are going, die, sinner, die. Yep, you were the sum of all the people riding the goat backwards. Suddenly were like, hey, friend, I want to come stay at your house for a week. It's like, talk to the hand, girl. You're not talking to me now. So it's all about that. And there's some crazy stories. Every time I would do a documentary series or they would interview me for something like that, I would have documentary people. They're like this, dropping the notebook and getting all open mouth, gig mouth fishes at some of the stories. Because some of the stories are truly outrageous in the book, like the boy talked about his masturbation habits. That was pretty bizarre. Or the time they tried to do an exorcism on a kid that was stoned. Okay, enough about that. If you could do like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, that would be awesome. Also, don't, don't, don't reach out to anybody I talk about on this. Do not, do not go ugly, bug nuttery, stupid on any of these people because I don't advocate that. No harassment, please. And these are just my opinions, or my opinions reached by being officially older than dirt now, but their opinions still, and my opinions are just my own. Okay, short ramble. I'm going to do a Costa Rica video. It's going to get uploaded either today or tomorrow. And starting with the wonder of this. These are bananas I picked off my own damn tree. I'm eating bananas every day, 3 and 4 times a day. How many bananas can you eat a day before it becomes an unhealthy obsession? I don't know. I'm eating banana with every meal, and I love it. Okay, so that's out of the way. If you stay away from the news like a lot of us do, because it's not been good lately, on last Saturday, the Saturday before yesterday, Harrison Butker, who is part of the St. Louis football team, the Chiefs, um, and I don't know because I don't watch football. I don't keep up with football. That's strictly a husband thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. I don't want to hear about this when he's doing his fantasy sports and doing his dance of destruction. He's yelling and cursing and screaming and spitting. And I'm in here going, do I need to do an exorcism on you, dude? So he could tell you all about Butker, but I can't. I don't know anything about him other than he is part of the NFL. What Butker said and did at a Catholic college commencement. He said a lot of stuff during his commencement speech. And I'm sure when they asked him to speak, they were thinking he would talk about Catholicism because he is a Catholic. He's a Catholic, and they were probably expecting him to say things in line with the Catholic Church believes and saying, you know, you'll carry your lessons forward to you, blah, blah, blah. It'll help you be a good Catholic, whatever. What he proceeded to do was promote a non denominational, evangelical, quiverful theology. He started promoting that whole thing, that I argue against all the time here. And if you've seen me on Twitter, I argue about it with these guys incessantly, is the theory of submission of women. So he started telling women at this commencement speech that the best role that they could choose would be to stay at home in the kitchen and pop out them babies like a pest dispenser. Okay, now I know that I am misquoting him here. Yes, but that is the gist of what I heard. And that's what I was just jaw dropped to hear coming out of his mouth, because it just doesn't make any sense in this time, this day and age. Feminism happened so that women would have choices. And I'm not saying that staying home and having a pile of babies is the wrong choice for you. That might be the right choice for you. My problem with that is if it becomes a feature, not an exception. I mean, not a choice. When it becomes a bounded choice, when it's your only choice that you can make, that is the thing that is toxic about it. And that's what's toxic about certain types of non-denominational, evangelical, quiverful, high demand religious organizations. There are no exceptions whatsoever. This is what you will do according to them. If you don't do that, then heck, you're an apostate. You're spinning out there, going to the devil. You're riding the goat backwards. You're decorating your handbasket to hell. And if you're like me and they tell me that now, I'm kind of like, yeah, I put some candles and soft pillows in there, and I have snacks. Just my constant observation of those guys when they accuse me of being an apostate and they say I'm going to hell. Who wants to go to heaven with a bunch of people that are so uptight and hateful? Not I. Hell, I'd rather go to many different places than that kind of heaven. I think they're going to be surprised when everything goes down and they die. I think they're going to be horribly surprised by a lot. But that's just my personal opinion on that one. Okay, so he said all this. And the young women who were sitting there listening to that, a lot of them sounded off on social media. It is not good about the things he said. And it was just very offensive. And God bless them, the nuns at that particular college. And they are in that group too, that diocese, issued a statement against it. Because what he was saying would put the sacrifices they made to be, sisters, nuns of the Catholic Church, an impossible choice, because they were having babies and they weren't in the kitchen and they were doing all these different things that he was claiming were not good. So I don't even know if he realized that when he was saying it or shortly thereafter. I just have to shout out the nuns here. I love nuns. I grew up in a family that was Catholic on one side and Episcopal on the other, and I spent about 50% of my time in Catholic churches, schools, various Catholic places, and I always love the nuns. I know how to crochet now because of a nun. But I know that a lot of people don't like nuns at all. And there are some out there that are pretty horrible, but so far, I've not run across any that are. In fact, I have to laugh. The last time I ran across the nuns here, they were buying beer at the Auto Mercado, and I was just kind of, hey, sister, uh, I laugh over that one. And they smiled, I smiled, and we all kind of moved on. But um, so the nuns issued a statement. Finally, the diocese did, because they almost had to, because what he said was so awful. He went on to throw shade at the LGBTQ community and said all kinds of hateful things about them. The things he said were just outrageous. And I encourage you to go look at the full transcript. I'm going to try and drop a link below the full transcript of what it was that Butker said. I like that name. Butker. It was outrageous, but more outrageous than that was watching what one quiverful cultural enforcer had to say. That was Laurie Alexander, she of The Transformed Wife, author of The Power of the Transformed Wife, who routinely tells women to stay with abusive men. And what do I mean by A in this situation? I mean financial, that happens, spiritual, verbal, which I think to me is the worst kind in a lot of ways, physical. She basically says, smile and submit harder. I've never seen that work out in my many years in Quiverful. Never, never, never. I've never seen a husband won without a word. Never. So one of the things that I like to do when something big cultural hits the zeitgeist, guys, I'm sorry, my brain is stuck on stupid today, is look to see how it lands in that certain subsect of non-denominational evangelicalism. Usually lands badly, and it did. Lori was so eager to bash Catholics that she just bashed him left, right, and center for what he said. And I was like, what? What she said has since been taken down, but she was going after him hard. And here's where the grand comedy comes in. He was saying exactly the same things that she says. Exactly. Exactamundo. Exactamundo. It was the same thing she was saying. And she was just like raising Cain over it. Well, she clearly got pushback against it because she turned around and issued a statement about how she doesn't hate Catholics. Oh, my word, because she must have some Catholic followers, and there are Catholic quiverful people out there. I've known quiverful people in every denomination I've ever been a part of, including the Methodist. I knew a quiverful family that were Methodist. I talk about this a lot, but it's a theology, goes straight across denominational lines, even though it does tend to land a lot more often in these places where you got the pastor controlling everything, everyone, with zero accountability above him, and there's no state or there's no state, county, regional oversight. It's just this one man band making it up as he goes along, right until he hands you the poison cup of Kool-Aid to drink. Maybe not as bad as Jim Jones, but going in that direction, most definitely, until they hit a speed bump and they're taken down. That happens too. So, bully for them. Bully for them. Okay. And so it was funny watching her squirm and constantly have to shift what it was she said in order to avoid making her supporters uncomfortable, which you don't see very often with some of these people. But she will sometimes do that and then take it down and deny she ever said it. She's notorious for that. People will share things she said on Twitter that I know she said. I saw her say it back in the day. And she said, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. You misunderstood me. That's a hacker. A hacker putting words in my mouth. No, girl, you said it. And here's the thing. It's okay to change your mind about stuff. It's okay to make missteps. It's not okay to lie about it. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed. Just like you're allowed to sit there and listen to people ranting and raving like I did last night and sit there and think, oh no, you've missed the boat. And be under no obligation to tell them that they have really screwed up. Their thinking is illogical. And they're ranting about immigrants at the US border, immigrants from Central and South America, yet they are here on a tourist visa doing the exact same damn thing. Most of the time when you run across people like that here, they're non-denominational evangelicals, almost to a fault. Those are the ones that run away here. They think that by doing so, that they're under no government oversight. They cannot vaccinate their children or they don't have to put them in school, which is a lie. Both those things are very much thing here. And if the local CPS discovers that you are not vaccinating your children, and you're not home, and you're not putting them in a government approved school, they can seize your children. They can also deport the whole mess of you guys as illegal aliens. Okay, so that's my rant about this thing. What Harrison Butker did and said was heinous, but I think it was more heinous that Lori Alexander went after him for saying those things as a Catholic, not realizing that he was pushing the exact same subservienthood of women. In life, we're all better off doing the thing that we have the capacity to do, the thing that we are the best at, no matter what our gonads are. So that's one thing I fight with these guys about. I have some things I do way better than my husband that would be considered masculine occupations. Like right now, I've got a washing machine that's leaking that I thought I had fixed, a simple fix. I jiggled the connection and it held, then it went out again. So I know I'm gonna have to get out there with a pair of pliers and fix that thing. And I will. I'll do that tomorrow morning. I don't have any laundry that must be done till tomorrow. If I were to ask my husband to do it, he would break that washer. He's just not gifted in that respect. He has no mechanical mind. But here's what he is. He's a great editor and writer. I had him edit my book, or at least large parts of it. He edited it. He was one of my editors. And he and I went back and forth on some things, and there are some things I corrected, and there are some things I left as they were because I told him the why. And once he understood the why of the language and the level of speak I was using, I wasn't throwing in too many big words, that I wanted a book that the average person could read and take something away from instead of something with a lot of statistics and statistical data and that sort of thing that would be broad, dry, and hard to read. That I do read those kinds of books, but I didn't want my book to be like that. I wanted my book to be funny, to be irreverent and kind of goofy, and to have some sad truths embedded in there so that anybody could understand what I was talking about without using big words. It's really the reality of it. That's what the reality I picked up when I was writing for Pathos. I remember one time having a conversation with, I think it was a writer at Pulpit and Pen. I'm not 100% sure. He asked me the meaning of several words I used. I was flabbergasted, blown away, discombobulated because he was asking me word meanings. And I felt like saying, dude, look them up. Look them up. So he was supposed to, but he was too lazy for that. I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be doing all the emotional labor like that, according to these guys. And I'm going to say is nope, nope, nope. Let's flip birds and all of that nonsense and move on. Breathe in, breathe out, move on. If you don't have the ability to do your job effectively, you can't look up words, then perhaps you should not be a writer for a publication, even a John MacArthur sponsored publication like Pulpit and Pen. So I get a big kick out of how they all react. I haven't looked to see what Doug Wilson said or any of the other ones yet. When I was working for Pathos and I was writing every single day a column, I would do that. I would stop and look and see if this had happened. Then I would have stopped and looked and seen what everybody was saying, from Franklin Graham to Lori Alexander, just to see what they said and how they framed it and what kind of Catholic bashing was going on, because that's one thing I know about non-denominational evangelicals. They hate the Catholics. They hate the Catholics like they hate the Mormons and some of the other religions. Like I said, when I left my old church, my husband was going to the Methodist church first thing in the morning for their 8 o'clock service. He was showing up at our church later for the the 10:30 service or 10 o'clock service. And nobody said a word to him. I just got questioned. Everybody kept saying, how can you let him go to that apostate church full of homosexual abortionists? Girl, please, that's a lot. And I would be like, why do you need to know? And then my second thing would be, why don't you ask him? I can't really speak to that. You ask him directly. Do not ask me. Do not triangulate. And at the time, I didn't know exactly what was going on. I knew some of why my husband was doing this, but not the full story. The full story came out later, and it had to do with him having such incredible cognitive dissonance at that point in our journey that he could no longer attend the men's group or any of that. It was just too much. It was constantly tearing at his heart and his soul. And that's really the reason we all leave these places, because we cannot silence the voice of dissent in our mind any longer. We have to deal with our cognitive dissonance, the spiritual abuse we've received through the years, and all of those things on a deconstruction journey. And I believe almost everybody hits that point in their walk. The ones that don't are disingenuous or maybe not quite as intelligent as they think they are. Some people just shout those voices down and never leave, but many of us, that becomes the rock that we leave upon. One time I asked Bruce Garenzer, who's also an excellent writer. I have to put a link in my description to Bruce's website. He writes the life and times of Bruce Garenzer. He used to write for Patheo sometimes for me. He's a former IFB pastor. And I adore Bruce and his wife Polly. They're good people. And I forgot why I was getting ready to talk about Bruce. Oh, I can't imagine what Bruce's deconstruction journey looked like, because he was a pastor. For a pastor to go on that deconstruction journey and end up in a completely different place than he started is huge. I know a number of pastors who've ended up at that place. And it's not exciting or fun, and they get the added fun of all their former congregants throwing crap at them as a result, instead of trying to understand where they're coming from and trying to still have a conversation. I mean, we need to accept people where they are in these things, even we can see it's a toxic thing. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because here I am talking trash about Lori Alexander. There's a reason for that. I have a reason for doing that. Lori Alexander, the Loris of this world, they tend to create quite a bit of collateral damage. It's going to call it what it is, collateral damage. And there are people by the side of the road, side of the theological road, that are mashed and mangled and full of spiritual abuse, who have come out of that. They've listened to somebody telling them, if you submit the right way, if you submit hard enough, if you're cheerful enough, if you do this, if you do that, God will change your husband and transform your marriage without a word. No, 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 no. That theology has a body count, but perhaps no more than the theology of places like Bethel Redding or Randy Clark's church in Harrisburg, PA. Those places have physical body count, because they teach a type of belief in healing and resurrection that we just don't see happen. It doesn't happen with them, even though they're trying to say that's what Jesus meant when he said, all these things and more you'll do greater than I. They sell people an ecclesiastical version of patent medicine that works about as well. I've talked before about a lady that I went to church with that I adored. Her and I were very close friends, to the point where at one point we had went on like a 2.5 month ramble, driving here, driving there. We drove down to Louisiana to see my family, introduced her around. We went on the riverboat, the gambling boats there. And it was an eye-opening trip. I learned things about her I had no idea, because when you're just palling around at church. That's a whole different story than when you're sharing hotel rooms and you're going in and out of restaurants and you're seeing how they behave with male gaze. Once you see that, ain't no going back. Well, anyway, she didn't believe in doctors and medicine at all. It was all food based, all of everything she thought of. Food based or plant or medicinal medicine based. And that's fine for what it is. And like I said, I don't have a problem with that to a certain extent. That's how I heal my sinus infections is with massive doses of garlic pills. And it works. And I don't want any more antibiotics because I've had MRSA more than a few times. So I try to hold down my antibiotic usage by using things I know work for my different infections, my sinus infections. And I get that. I get that. But she didn't believe in it at all. She wouldn't have preventative stuff done. She didn't have a yearly breast exam, a yearly pap smear. She didn't have them looking at her blood sugars or her blood pressure or anything else. None of that. You know what happened to her? About She kept having migraines for days on end that nothing seemed to touch. No amount of wheatgrass was going to heal that. So she started having these horrible, horrible migraines, and eventually they became so painful that she went to the ER. Yeah, I know. And the ER doctor said, after running tests, it said, you have uterine cancer and it is spread to your brain, and that is why you're having the headaches. So she had uterine cancer, had been there probably for years at this point, and spread all over her body. And they gave her 2 weeks to live. And sure enough, that was pretty close to accurate. She spent the last 2 weeks of her life going from ministry to ministry to ministry, trying to get healed. And she still died. Now, I know many in my old world that would say, oh, that's wonderful. She did what she was supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. For me, that's another knitter please situation. Knitter, please. Get regular physicals, please. It really does make a difference. And the year I skipped mine was the year that I had my stroke. They might have caught because I suddenly had weird high blood pressures, which I no longer do. So that was my stupidity. And I should have known better because I saw my friend. I saw how my friend suffered and the false hope, the way it all went down. And I was just heartbroken when all that went on because I'd already left at that time. And she had told me she could not speak to me any longer. This is one of my closest friends because I had embraced the Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship conference world. Is the best way to put it. I would go to those conferences all the time. And she thought that was demonic. She told me, if we're to stay friends, you can never go to the Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship things again because that's demonic. And I said, dear friend, I am so sorry, but I don't allow friends to dictate what my theology is. And we left it as that. It was quite sad. Okay, so this is Sunday. We're having our discussion today instead of Tuesday because this couldn't wait. I've been watching this whole Harrison Butker thing, just laughing, going, you really put your little ignorant young shoe in your foot in your mouth, didn't you? Can you taste the shoe leather? Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. Love you guys. I hope I can eventually get enough of bandwidth to be able to go live again. Right now, that's not happening because we have a number of things going on, including the fact that our hydroelectrical here is not working worth a damn because the aquifer is very low and they keep threatening to shut off our electric. In fact, that's what I'm going to do when I get off here. I'm going to start searching to see if I'm going to lose electric tomorrow because Monday is laundry day.